Whenever you take sides in a conflict between two parties, you really do need to consider a couple of things. Why the conflict occurred in the first place. And secondly, what are the actions carried out more recently by either side?
Yeah.
So, for example, if Germany started to rustle up stormtroopers a la 1939, you would think twice about supporting their cause, right?
Yes.
And this is exactly where we are with the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. We all know that Putin didn't wake up one morning and said, I have an idea. Let's have a special operations with Ukraine.
Yes.
That wouldn't make much sense, as the two nations have been living peacefully side by side for 80 to 90 years now.
Hmm.
And we also know that Ukraine isn't fighting with Russia under its own steam.
Yeah.
The US under Biden, Germany under Scholz, France under Macron, and the UK under Starmer gave a helping hand. But as some other countries have halted their assistance to supply Ukraine with weapons, the other four main players will have to check on what they are supporting. Right? So England, Germany, France, not so much US, right? To be honest, the US now only sells the weapons to Germany to give to Ukraine. So it too has stepped back quite a bit too. I read the paper the other day about Ukraine deliberately attacking a warehouse of Russia's Amazon. The company is called Wildberries, and this attack, which happened last week, killed 7 workers at the distribution center and injured 25 others. Was the warehouse being used by Russian military for logistics? Well, no, it wasn't. Did Ukraine know? Yes, it did. The statement, which came from Stanislav uh, Krapuvnik, an ex-US Army officer, was, they can't reach military targets, so go for softer civilian targets, even civilians themselves. This isn't anything new from the regime in Kiev. Over the last 48 hours, Ukraine once again bombed a couple of other distribution centers of wildberries using explosives packed with shrapnel, which can only be used on military targets, otherwise it becomes a war crime. In fact, firing on civilians in itself is a war crime.
Hmm.
This time killing one and putting another 3 in hospital. The UN Human Rights Office spokesman Tamim Al-Khitan said intentional attacks directed against civilians and civilian objects constitute a war crime under international humanitarian law, and the incident should be investigated. Now, one would have thought that with the stigma Germany has been carrying on its shoulders with the Third Reich and all, it would stop and reassess whom they're supplying arms to and money. Over the last few weeks, we've seen headlines about Ukraine repatriating a Nazi collaborator and giving him a state funeral, and the Azov Brigade, and the Nazi battalion name celebrated, being put on an army battalion recently, that Germany can see the writing on the wall. Other European nations, even though they used other justifications, pulled back their support for Ukraine. If we know about stuff, naturally heads of state will know a lot more.
Mm.
Could it be that Ukraine is going or has gone all Nazi? The heads of state just doesn't want to admit it. I can hear Chancellor Merz saying, what again?
Well, yes. Okay. Ooh, can of worms here. What do I really think about all this? I mean, I would just wish people would stop killing each other, full stop. But yeah, that's the opening gambit. But yeah, that's the ideal situation at the moment. Um, I mean, it was very odd odd for me the other day to hear that when you hear in the mainstream media that Kiev is under attack and etc. etc. And then I saw and Odessa and other places, and then I see, well, I mean, people have been carrying a phone in the streets, and people have had nightlife and everything else carrying on. Yeah. Now, I know you can say the same about the Middle East and Israel and other places there. Sometimes our perception, yeah, okay, there are entire places in Ukraine that have been totally destroyed, such as the nature of military actions. I won't call it a war; it's a military action. Um, I, I mean, none of us really know what's going on, and I'm going to be on a neutral footing here. Yeah, I don't know the precise numbers of Ukrainian civilians that have been killed or affected by this any more than I know the precise number of Russians. I think it's tragic. I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame the soldiers are dying at the moment. At this stage now, I think we're at best we're at a stalemate. At worst, I'm not saying worst, I mean loosely, Russia are winning. Yeah. Now might be the time to say enough is enough. Now, I think there's a lot of truth in probably that Russia probably has almost blanket access to bomb anywhere they particularly want to in Ukraine. Remembering that when you're seeing the drones doing the attacks and everything, and the Russians, they're doing it within Ukraine, they're not doing it within Russia. I think it is probably still due to terrain and size of the country and everything else, a lot more difficult to actually do any military action against Russia with regards to military targets. They got lucky the other week with an airfield or something, from what I can tell. If that's true, if it's true. So yes, I think they will go for softer targets. They may justify the possibility that this distribution company could be sending out things to military destinations. It might even be sent a few books to a military base somewhere. There could be just ordinary books, and that could be the justification that Ukraine may use. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just thinking off the top of my head on this, people. I don't know. It is a for Mrs. Commander so and so so and so so and so. Yeah. They might even use it as an excuse that potentially it could be used as a front to actually supply.
I read somewhere in the Ukrainian press
Yeah.
that Ukrainians knew it was a civilian target.
Mm.
They said what they're trying to do is to get the civilians to be fed
Yeah.
up with Putin.
That's the other point I was making. I mean, this is why you start bombing population. I mean, this is why the Allies and Germany were bombing each other's cities. The idea of bombing
Yeah,
London.
but at that time, sir, this bombing civilian targets was not a war crime.
No.
Probably because of that, became a war crime.
Yeah, but every major war since has involved bombing civilian areas.